Hello, students. Welcome once again. And today we'll be doing Ode to the West Wind, written by P.B. Shelley. But before I start with the poem, I would like to give you a brief introduction of the poet. Percy Bysshe Shelley was born on 4th August 1792 at Field Place near Horsham, Sussex, England. He was the eldest son of Timothy and Elizabeth Shelley. And he was the eldest son, and he stood in line to inherit his grandfather's considerable estate and a seat in the parliament. He attended Eton College, where he began writing poetry, and went on to Oxford University. His first publication was a Gothic novel, D'Esterhazy, in 1810, in which he voiced his own heretical and aesthetic opinions through the villain D'Esterhazy. After less than a year at Oxford, he was expelled for writing and circulating a pamphlet promoting atheism. At the age of 19, Shelley eloped to Scotland with a 16-year-old Harriet Westbrook. But 2 years later, he published his first long, serious book, Queen Mab, a philosophical poem. The poem emerged from Shelley's friendship with the British philosopher William Godwin, and it expressed Godwin's free-thinking socialist philosophy. But later, Shelley fell in love with Godwin's daughter, Mary, and they eloped in 1814 and travelled to Europe. In 1815, the couple went to Lake Geneva, where Shelley spent a great deal of time with the poet Lord Byron, discussing poetry and supernatural late into the night. The same year, Shelley wrote the verse Allegory, Aleister, or the Spirit of Solitude. In December 1816, Harriet Shelley apparently committed suicide, and in a matter of weeks, Shelley and Mary Godwin, they were officially married. Early in 1818, Percy and Mary Shelley, they left England for the last time and went to Italy. During the remaining 4 years of his life, Shelley produced all his major works, including The Mask of Anarchy, written in response to Peterloo Massacre in 1818, The Cenci, and Prometheus Unbound. On 8 July 1822, shortly before his 30th birthday, Shelley was drowned in a storm while attempting to sail from Leghorn to La Spezia in Italy, and he died in an accident. Shelley is remembered for his lyrical poems, which are intensely revolutionary and imaginative. Now let's come to the poem, Ode to the West Wind. Now, what is an ode? Ode is a name given to a long lyric poem. An ode often begins with an invocation, and it is in the form of an address generally dignified and elaborate in stanzaic structure. It is of Greek origin and it is a serious and dignified composition, almost always in rhyme and longer than the lyric proper. It is often in the form of an address and is sometimes used to commemorate an important public occasion. It is exalted in subject matter and elevated in tone and style. Neither the theme nor its treatment can be trivial or undignified. And the poet is serious both in the choice of his words and the subject matter and in the manner of its presentation. Sorry. Unlike another form of verse, it is often addressed directly to the being or object it treats of. The opening lines sometimes contain an apostrophe or appeal, which is the characteristic of the whole treatment of the poem. Like in this poem, when we see Shelley's Ode to the West Wind, it begins with, "O wild west wind." This is a direct address. So, uh, let me give you a brief summary of the poem or the subject matter of the poem. Ode to the West Wind is dedicated to the west wind and its power. The poem begins with the speaker's invocation to the west wind of autumn. It scatters the dead leaves and enables seeds to scatter in order to be nurtured by the spring. The speaker addresses the west wind with the words as destroyer and preserver. He wants the west wind to listen to the speaker, and the speaker says that the west wind causes violent storms. According to the speaker, the west wind shakes the Mediterranean from his summer dreams and cleaves the Atlantic into choppy chasms. The vegetation in the ocean trembles, and the speaker asks the west wind for the third time to hear him. And the speaker declares that he would never pray to the west wind and invoke the powers of the west wind if he were also a dead leaf that is blown by the wind, or a cloud the wind carries, or a wave that is pushed by the wind. The speaker urges the west wind to raise him like a wave, a leaf, or cloud, but he regrets that he is chained and under the weight of time on this earth. The speaker wants the west wind to make him its lyre and mold him in its spirit so as to spread his thoughts across the universe. He wants his words to be scattered among mankind, and he is hopeful that there will be spring soon. And this poem ends with an optimistic note. Now, this poem consists of 5 stanzas of 14 lines each, and each stanza has a substanza, that is, has 4 3-lines substanzas and a 2-line couplet, and the lines follow the iambic pentameter. The poem has terza rima, which is a 3-line rhyme scheme that was primarily used by Dante in his Divine Comedy. So, I'll explain to you this rhyme scheme, what is terza rima and what is the rhyme scheme, when I'll teach you the poem. So, in my next session, I will take the first canto or the first stanza of the poem and